What if one day, the 7.5 billion people on this planet suddenly disappeared? Now, we've talked about some instances where this could have happened in the past, or how we could one day become extinct, so this isn't a fantasy discussion, it's real. What if a huge nuclear war broke out? Or what if everyone just took off to another planet? Just what would happen to the Earth over time without our influence? Well, here are some good and some bad things that would happen if just one day humans completely vanished. Sit back and admire the beauty of Mother Nature and what she would do without us interfering. Power out. Within a few hours of humans leaving Earth, most fossil fuel power stations would shut down as they started running out of fuel. Some wind-driven turbines may continue to provide energy, but without maintenance from humans, eventually they will also fail. As would unmaintained solar panels, rendered useless as dust and debris mounted upon them. It would only be hydroelectric plants that would continue to run, but within a month or so, these would also shut down. The knock-on effect of losing power across the world would be pretty catastrophic, and makes you realise how dependent on it we've become. Anything requiring power would fail. Within days, food from fridges and freezers would start to rot, as would anything else deep frozen or cooled. This includes precious scientific research samples, as well as carefully preserved ancient artifacts that depend on working environmental systems to protect them. Think Egyptian mummies, and even the wax statues at Madame Tussauds. Most of the world's underground systems would flood due to the pumps that continually pump out water, and within a week, the stench of rotting food and other matter would become very apparent. At night, most of the world would be in complete darkness and eerily quiet. Animals reliant on humans for their food will try to frantically escape as they get hungry and are trapped in their once loving homes, or caged in zoos. Within a month, the water needed to cool nuclear power stations would evaporate, triggering a series of explosions across the world that would be far more devastating than Chernobyl or Fukushima. This would obliterate most plants and animals within the affected zones. Within a year, the thousands of satellites humans have placed in the Earth's orbit will come crashing down, lighting up the sky as they fall. Plants will take over the once pristine lawns of the suburbs, turning them into overgrown fields. Similarly, weeds will start to grow through cracks in roads, pavements, and masonry work, causing damage to the foundations. The once bustling cities, if not flooded, will begin to fill with wild animals and wildfires sparked by lightning storms that will ravage part of the world's bush and forestry, spreading completely unchecked without human intervention. And that's just the beginning. Farm animals, pets, and other animals that rely on humans will struggle. But what about all the animals? How much of the world's animals are influenced by human activity? Without humans to feed them, many domestic, zoo, and farm animals will not survive. Unless they can escape, they will experience starvation and lack of water. However, it is possible that some would escape, but this would not be good news for all, as some of the larger dogs and moggy cats would likely turn predator in a desperate attempt to live, and would hunt down smaller creatures, probably our beloved overbred ornamental pedigree cats and dogs, who simply would not be equipped to survive. The smell of rotting food would lure packs of wolves and other wild animals to the towns and cities where humans once lived, looting the supermarkets and kitchens that they never dared to venture to before. These places would also become infested with vermin. Some farm animals would survive. Pigs, sheep, and cows in particular would cross with stronger wild breeds to ensure new, more robust species. However, most of the world's dairy cows would die out. Without farmers to feed them the rich feed required for their breed, they would suffer chronic metabolic disorders that would eventually kill them. Zoo animals that manage to escape may find themselves in unsuitable environments and climates, and in some areas, they too will not survive. However, in the right environment, they will thrive, as will prairie dogs, a breed that has lost 98% of its population due to overhunting. With no humans to kill them, they would make a dramatic comeback. Insects and birds would also fare well, with many of the world's skyscrapers becoming their new home. and there will also be a small reminder of humans through birds, as it's thought many former domestic parrots will still retain human speech for several years. However, as with everything, only the strongest will survive. Almost all man-made creations will disappear. After 25 years, concrete structures will start to crack and decay, ravaged by invading vegetation and corroded metal. Many houses, flats and skyscrapers will now be exposed to the elements, and many low-lying cities such as London and Amsterdam will be flooded. Buildings with exposed metal rods will now be at risk of lightning strikes, and many of the once iconic buildings of the 21st century, if still standing, will be dilapidated. Although nearly all man-made structures will be affected, some will take longer than others to disappear. It would be up to 100 years before the Brooklyn Bridge in New York City, the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, and Sydney Harbour Bridge in Sydney, Australia collapse, or Big Ben in London finally topples. Landmarks such as the Eiffel Tower, the Statue of Liberty, Tower Bridge and the Eye in London will likely last longer. Incredibly, some foods will also still be edible by this point. These include freeze-dried goods, canned food and fruitcake that are still good to eat for over 100 years, if not damaged by moisture and humidity. There would of course be some modern man-made structures that would stand the test of time. These would include underground structures like the Channel Tunnel and anything constructed of stone. Also lurking for many years at the bottom of the oceans would be the world's nuclear submarines, still intact, encasing their deadly nuclear warheads. The animal population would thrive. There's no denying we humans do a lot of good, but one thing's for sure, we cause a lot of destruction regarding the animal population. So it's no surprise that long after the initial fallout, the animal kingdom would thrive without us. A classic modern-day example of how animals flourish where humans are not around is Chernobyl, a place that was evacuated by humans after the nuclear accident in 1986, but a place where nature now thrives without the intervention of humans. The now unpopulated area is teeming with herbivores and predators, rarely seen in the area before the disaster. These include the rare European brown bear and European lynx species that have not been seen in the region for nearly a century. In addition to these, an endangered breed of wild horse, bison and wolves have been introduced to the area and have also prospered. That's not to say the radiation levels are good for the animals, just that how well they have adapted without human intervention. So we know which animals would die, as discussed previously, but if humans were wiped off the planet tomorrow, which animals in particular would benefit the most? Well, any species for whom we are their only predator. These would include elephants, larger whales, gorillas, bears and rhinos. Basically all of the creatures that are endangered now because of humans. Also wild species that we hunt for food, or who get caught up in our hunt for food. These would be things like fish, dolphins and sharks. In addition to these, all creatures we purposely destroy or considered pests, such as rats, mice, foxes, badgers and insects, as well as any species previously wiped out by buildings, vehicles, pollutions or industry. Over time, Earth would be completely unrecognizable. Before we get into this last one, don't forget to follow Top 5s on Instagram. We post regular photos over there and show you a little behind the scenes of what goes on. Also head over to the Top 5's website once this video is over. Read some of the amazing, never before shared stories on the Stories tab, and sign up for our weekly Friday mailing list. Click on the link in the description or in the comments to head over there once you've enjoyed the rest of this video. In just 1,000 years, almost all traces of humans, their culture, and modern civilization will be buried beneath vegetation, sand, and water. Nature will be in charge at this point, and the swamps that once covered large parts of the world will reappear. In just 10,000 short years, it will be like we never existed. The only evidence of our existence will be the likes of the pyramids in Egypt, the Great Wall of China, and stone carvings like Mount Rushmore and the Maui at Easter Island. If these haven't been covered over, some bronze sculptures may also still be recognisable. However, buried under layers of debris, various human artifacts made of plastics will still survive, as will any gold reserve vaults that, although will be flooded, will preserve gold inside them for millions of years. The many buried corpses that are now likely lying deep in watery graves and sediment will fossilise and be protected. And one day, just as we have with the dinosaurs, will be dug up and be part of the history of the next intelligent beings to settle on Earth. Life on Earth will be thriving, just in a different form, as the planet we are now destroying with pollution returns to its pre-human clarity and nature, and animals ultimately take over. So that's 5 things that could happen if humans one day were wiped from the face of the Earth. Thankfully though, I do not think it will ever happen, at least not anytime soon. But what do you think? Is the end of humanity something you can visualise in the future? Thanks for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next video.